silver sky that hums and sings, mountains painted with golden wings. We're running barefoot through the streams, chasing shadows, chasing dreams. The forest whispers ancient spells, while distant chimes ring crystal bells. A phoenix rises from the blue, its fiery gaze sees all we do. Hold tight the spark that lights your way through twilight's maze where visions play. We're chasing wonders, chasing stars through worlds unknown where wild things are. The heart beats loud, the fire's bright. We'll find the magic in the a valley blooms an emerald haze, with dancing lights and violet rays. A dragon sleeps beneath the lake, its breath alive, the waters quake. A clockwork tree ticks time undone. The branches twist toward moons and sun. We climb its roots and take the leap through dreams so bold we dare not sleep.
7. The Orange Tree. Malcolm was sitting in the dappled sunlight under an orange tree in the garden of a villa in a northern suburb of Aleppo, reading the papers in a file headed Tashbulaksi, 108 OS 91, and from time to time turning over a flat stone on the table beside him. The stone told him nothing at all. He'd already had something to eat and some proper attention to his wound, and he felt a lot better. The villa was rented by the British Embassy from its owner, a Syrian diamond merchant, and was often used to put up visitors or newly arrived staff before they could find a place of their own. Timur Gazarian had taken Malcolm there and arranged it all with the embassy officials. The economic attaché would be coming to see him later that afternoon, and would no doubt have some interesting questions to answer. So Malcolm sat in his long chair under the orange tree, with the sunshine golden on the pages of his file and the leaves rustling quietly overhead, and considered what he might say to the attaché. Part of the problem was that the task Oakley Street had sent him there to do wasn't economic so much as philosophical, and the diplomatic service hadn't yet seen fit to appoint any officers to the post of philosophical attaché. Malcolm would have to do the best he could. He'd been trying to make notes as he went along, but the paper in the file was annoyingly shiny, and his pencil slid over it without leaving much of a mark. He felt strange, passive, calm, almost indifferent. It was a long time since he'd felt like simply sitting still. Perhaps you needed a special gift to do it without restlessness. Or perhaps it was something to do with the oceanic feeling of wide, unforced attention. He found himself paying to the garden, the distant sounds of traffic, the light playing on his chair. No doubt it was partly due to the medication they'd given him. He put the file back on the little rosewood table beside him and picked up the stone again. It was a long oval in shape, about the length of his palm and as thick as the tip of his little finger, a dull greenish black with no iridescence. It was smooth, as if with long wear, the edges worn down thinner than the center. It was very hard. He'd tested it with his pocket knife, and hadn't made a mark. It felt a little heavier than it looked, because one surface was not at all shiny, but a smooth and inviting mat, the idea occurred to him to try the pencil on it. It worked beautifully. He'd forgotten the pleasure of using a sharp pencil on a surface that resisted the line without impeding it. He remembered who had pointed this out to him first. It was Mr. Palmer, the art teacher at his elementary school, who'd shown him how much more satisfactory it was to draw with a sharp pencil on paper with a slight tooth than with a blunt one on paper that was glazed like porcelain. "Feel it," he'd said. "Educate your fingers as well as your brain." So Malcolm was perfectly at home in the world of the senses, and when he touched the stone with his pencil point, sharpened only a few minutes before, he recognized the coming together of the right tool and the right material with a little sigh of satisfaction. But why had Glenys Godwin sent it to him? Timur Gazarian had known nothing more about it. Malcolm drew a curved line, and then, on impulse, added a series of zigzag markings along it, like the scintillating scotoma, his personal aurora, the spangled ring. When he'd done that, he wrote his name underneath, and then he had the shock of his life. The spangled ring gently vanished, as if sinking into the surface of the stone. Then his name disappeared in the same way, and some new words appeared in a handwriting he recognized. "Polstead? Is that you? G.G. Glenys Godwin?" This was impossible. He blinked and shook his head, as if he was trying to wake up from a daydream, but there were the words, and that was the way she signed her initials. "Chief," he wrote. "Yes. Where are you? Aleppo, Villa, Edessa. Where is Oakley Street?" "Oakley Street is in Hemel Hempstead." That made him pause. Then he wrote, "So romantic." The answer came at once, "There worketh a spell." And he replied, "Which is Lord of thy utterance, Christabel." "Good. Tell me what the Magisterium's doing." Malcolm wrote down everything he'd observed, including what he'd seen at the Thuringia Potash building, which took some time. As he wrote, the words a sentence or two before faded into the stone, leaving room to write more. Finally, he wrote, "And what in the world is this stone? Can anyone else read it? I have an identical one. There are two of them. It's a resonating lodestone. They only communicate with each other. Now, why won't you obey orders? What the hell are you doing in Aleppo? Recovering from being shot in the hip? I'm going further east. Sir, Mr. Polstead, sir. There is a visitor to see you." It was the servant who looked after the place. His leather slippers made no noise on the flagstones. "Who is it, Ali?" "He would not give a name, sir. He looks not respectable. If you like, I will stay nearby while you talk." "Thank you. No need to stay nearby. I'll call if I need to, sir." The servant withdrew. Malcolm wrote, "Visitor," more later, and laid the stone upside down on the papers beside him. And then, on second thought, laid a piece of paper on top of the stone. He looked up as the visitor arrived. Ali showed him into the garden and withdrew without a word. "I am Abdul Ionides, dragoman, interpreter, guide, factotum," the visitor said. "And I hope that you are Mr. Polstead." "I am Malcolm Polstead." "Good morning. What can I do for you, Mr. Ionides? Please, do sit down." Malcolm indicated another chair. Ionides was intriguing. His clothes were shabby and tattered, almost those of a beggar, but his bearing was easy and confident, and his heavily scarred face expressed a quick and subtle intelligence. He moved the chair a little into the shade and sat down. "I heard your name," he said, "from a young man who is determined to kill you. But there is something strange here, because he referred to you as Mr. Matthew Polstead. And from another source, I heard your name as Mr. Malcolm Polstead. And now you yourself say Malcolm. Which is the correct name, sir? Is there another English gentleman with a similar name?" "Malcolm is correct. And your young man must be Olivier Bonneville." "Indeed, sir. Where is he now? Do you know?" "No." I last saw him near one of the dead cities to the west of Aleppo, the one called Al-Khan al-Azraq. It has other names, but that is the one, yes. I had a brief conversation with him in which I learned your name, incorrectly as it now seems, and I persuaded him not to kill the person I was guiding towards Aleppo. He might be still in the desert, or he might have arrived in this city. I don't know. How did you find out where I was? It was not difficult. Why did he want to kill the person you were guiding, in order to get hold of something she had? He is an arrogant young man full of passionate desire for vengeance, which he calls justice. Yes, I believe that. And you came here just to warn me about him. No, not only, Mr. Polstead. I came also to ask you about a particular problem. It concerns the Rusakov field and its associated particle. Dust, of course. Asta opened her eyes. She had been lying on a flagstone in the sun, seemingly fast asleep, but now her red-gold fur was ambaric with attention, and Ionides' gecko daemon reacted in a similar way. She ran from his shoulder down his arm, and then sprang from his hand to the table. Asta leapt up to join her there, and they touched noses cautiously. "Why do you think I can tell you anything about that?" said Malcolm. "It's a matter of physics, and I'm an historian. I know you were involved in the transfer of some documents and papers concerning the Rusakov matters. Involved in the transfer." Malcolm had to smile. "You could put it like that. In fact, I stole them, but that was a very long time ago. I've never been professionally involved with that field of research. What's your connection with it?" "Until 10 years ago, I was a professor of mathematics at the University of Alexandria, and I was closely involved in the study of the Rusakov field. My colleagues and I made some discoveries that came to the notice of the authorities, and we were commanded to stop. But we continued, and the institute I directed was forcibly closed. My enemies in the university administration concocted a scandal, entirely false, and made it impossible for me to continue in any academic field. Since then, I have lived as a dragoman, guiding, translating, arranging things for my clients, sometimes a beggar, sometimes a thief. The world forces us into these roles, and we have to play them as well as we can. Tell me about your discoveries about the Rusakov field, thought experiments only, for the last 10 years. At Alexandria, I was studying variations in the field strength. The gravitational field, the ambaromagnetic field, they vary with distance. We all know that. This field, the Rusakov field, seemed to be indifferent to distance. There was a minimum strength that remained the same, no matter how far from the source. The source? What's the source in this case? This is where the danger begins. This is where it becomes forbidden. The Rusakov field is related closely to human consciousness. When it varies, it does so not because of distance, but because of the attention of a human observer. The equations are hard to follow, but the implication is that the Rusakov field permeates everything in the universe. There is consciousness everywhere. Not all the same kind of consciousness in every part, but something it would be hard to call anything else. And that was what the authorities objected to. Of course they would. But in this case, which authorities do you mean? The university, the civil government, and the religious powers. Only the police were not interested. A matter of experimental theology, of philosophy. They can't investigate that when they have thieves and murderers to catch. So now we come to roses. And the imagination. Malcolm saw how this beggar academic was enjoying the process of telling his story, like an actor, in front of an attentive audience. Asta and the gecko daemon were side by side on the little table, listening, and Malcolm thought, where is the dust in this garden? It must be surrounding all of them, swirling with currents of understanding and expectation. Tashbulak, said Malcolm. Karamarkan, a red building fiercely guarded. You know about it. You been there? No. But I'm going there. Tell me about roses and the imagination. The oil they make from their special roses. You know about its power. You know what it can reveal. Yes, I do. You know Thuringia potash. They seem to be involved in these matters, but I don't know very much about how they have been trying to synthesize this oil for 2 years now. Ah, said Malcolm. So that's it. They have been using all their resources, pharmaceutical laboratories, every kind of expertise and research, and a great deal of money, and they can't do it. It refuses to allow them to do it. There is a molecule in the original rose oil that has different properties according to how they analyze it. They do it one way, such and such a result. So they think that is how to make it, and they synthesize it exactly, and with no result. Just ordinary rose oil. So they analyze it a different way. Different result. They try that. Still nothing. They try another. Same thing. As if it knows what they're doing and plays a trick on them. As if it... Wait a minute. You mean like the photon that seems to know which slit to go through? Yes. Very like that. Whatever you try, it's the wrong way. There must be a right way because the oil exists, but you can never synthesize it. This is the point I get to when I was working on it, theoretically. I could have saved TP some time, but I was happy to see them waste their resources. How do you know this? If you've got no academic position, how can you follow? I know many people, many things. Now we talk about imagination. Go on, then. Tomorrow, the president of the High Council of the Magisterium is going to make a big speech in Constantinople. Here is the text. He reached into an inside pocket of his shabby linen jacket and drew out a folded stack of several closely typed pages. Malcolm took it, more puzzled than he'd been for months. He unfolded the sheets and read the heading. Seul imagination, doctrine faus, seduisante et dangerous. He's making war on the imagination now, he said. This is the first time he make it clear. Full, clear, passionate. Mad. How did you get this? I was involved in the transfer. You stole it, of course. May I keep this to read? If it's in your hands, it's dangerous for you and not so dangerous for me. Yes, keep it. Now I have one more thing to tell you, which is why I tell you these other things first, or else you would not hear them with the clarity they deserve. I believe you know my employer. What? Who is your employer? I have been guiding her here from Seleucia. Her name is Miss Lyra Silvertongue. Malcolm felt a rush of emotion along every nerve in his body. He didn't move. Where is she now? He said, polite, urbane. At Hotel de las Palmas, Zacum Street. I can guide you there in 20 minutes. In fact, it took 30, because Malcolm could go no faster than his leg would let him. Ionides was solicitous, at one point disappearing for a few moments. Into a bazaar, and reappearing with a walking stick for Malcolm to lean on. He refused to accept any money for it. They found the Hotel de las Palmas in a state of confusion and panic. The receptionist, a middle-aged woman with a yapping terrier daemon, clearly had no idea what had happened or why, and the guests, some half-dressed, having been interrupted during a siesta, or something else that required little in the way of clothing, were variously angry, frightened, embarrassed, resentful, shocked and anxious to placate any authority that needed placating, while demanding apologies from everyone that didn't. They milled around the lobby, shouting, pleading, explaining, apologizing, accusing, and sobbing. Malcolm and Ionides watched from the doorway, and as soon as someone who might be the concierge appeared, Malcolm stopped him with a firm hand. What's the reason for all this? Police raid, sir. Nothing to matter. All finish, all over. No reason to alarm. He stood on a chair and clapped his hands. Messieurs, dames, s'il vous plaît. Excuse me, ladies and gentlemen. Listen, please. The emergency is all finished. Please go back to your rooms or carry on whatever your business. The police have gone. No need to concern. Do not disquiet yourselves. He was trembling and sweating, and he kept trying to smooth down his hair, which was already flat and dank across his head. He went on talking, while Malcolm and Ionides looked at each other and nodded. Ionides eased himself past a plump man with a small moustache who was jabbing a forefinger into the desktop as he protested in fast and furious French about his luggage. The receptionist spread her hands, baffled, frightened, and Ionides leaned forward and spoke quietly in Greek. While he was doing that, Malcolm turned to the concierge, who was trying to climb down from his chair, and offered him a hand. "Thank you." "Merci, monsieur." "Yes, ladies and gentlemen. Everything is safe and fine, monsieur." Malcolm's hand was holding a $5 bill, and the concierge deftly vanished it into a pocket. "At your service entirely, sir." "How can I help? You mentioned the police. Were they looking for someone in particular?" "I don't know, sir. They don't explain. They might not have been police. I had to call them something when I explained just now. And the word police people recognize, you understand? There was a young Englishwoman staying here alone. Was she here when the police came?" "I don't think so, monsieur. The middle of the day she is probably elsewhere. When they left, they had no one with them." "Let me ask Madame Galatas." He turned to the receptionist, but Ionides was already moving away from the desk, shaking his head. "Not here," he said. "Where did you last see her? Was it here?" "Brazilian Embassy Garden. Not far." "You walk all right?" Olivier Bonneville, full of pain, bitter, burning with subdued rage, carried his wounded Damon to a house not far from the embassy and opened the front door. A young woman he had previously ignored was sitting behind a desk in the entrance hall. She watched him come in, watched him slouch towards the staircase, watched him set his foot on the first step, and then she said, "Hey, what do you want?" he said. "He wants you in there," she said, jerking her thumb over her shoulder. "Right now, I'm busy, you're in trouble." "That beats being busy." He turned away from the staircase, glowering. From this angle she could see the scratches on his face, the dust and dirt on his clothes, the torn knee of his trousers. She had no sympathy. The boy was a thug, a spoilt brat, and if someone had taught him a lesson, it was about time. "What's he want?" he said. "Nothing to do with me." Her expression was cold and hostile. She knew precisely why he had ignored her in the past. It was because she wasn't pretty. He paid enough attention to that blonde in the consular department. He shrugged, which made him wince. And then she saw the broken wing of his Damon, who lay limp and dull-eyed in his arms. She was shocked enough to feel a moment's pity, but he moved past, and the moment was gone. She heard him knock, and heard the man's snapped reply. The boy opened the door reluctantly and went inside, and then, hearing nothing more, she went back to her magazine. Bonneville faced the man behind the desk with a look of defiance, or so he thought. The man was Father Gerhardt, the magisterial nuncio, and there was someone with him, a woman of 40 or so, maybe Persian in Western clothes, with a heavy gold chain around her neck, and eyes darker and larger than he had ever seen in anyone not famous for being beautiful. For she was certainly beautiful, and, to the best of his knowledge, not famous. Anyway, he had never seen her before, and her presence made him feel even more wretched than he did already. The nuncio, a lean and sour-faced man, said, "Where have you been?" The woman looked at Bonneville with frank curiosity. He avoided her eyes and said shortly, "I found the girl." "And what happened?" I think she must have been deranged." I said, "What happened?" "We fought." Bonneville had seldom been so uncomfortable. He could even see, after a flickering glance, a smile playing around the woman's lips. He looked down at the carpet. "And the outcome?" Stand up straight. The pain in Bonneville's kidneys, where the bitch had kicked him, was almost crippling. He tried to stand up, but had to take it slowly, with a deep breath. His Damon lolled in his arms. "What happened to her?" said the woman, indicating the wounded hawk Damon. Her voice was low, her tone concerned. Perhaps that smile had been sympathetic. With every second that went by, Bonneville felt worse. "The girl injured her," he said sullenly. "Where did this happen?" said Father Gerhardt. "Quickly, now." "In the garden of the Brazilian embassy." The woman raised her eyebrows towards the nuncio. "In effect, a public park," he explained. "And to Bonneville, is she there still?" "Probably not." "Speak up, boy." "I said probably not," Bonneville snarled. "But I hurt her too. She might not have gone far. And I can tell you something else." "Well, there is a man who has been guiding her. His name is Abdul-Yanides. I saw him after she attacked me. But he is not a guide. He knows too much about the roses and other things. You should arrest him. He will tell you a great deal about her and where she is going. Everything." "Abdul-Yanides," said the nuncio, reaching for a pen. "Describe him." Bonneville did, with some accuracy. The nuncio wrote it all down. Then the woman spoke. The young woman. Was her daemon with her? It was disconcerting having to face her when she was so beautiful. "Who is this woman?" Bonneville said to the nuncio. "Someone of more importance than you. Go and clean yourself up, and wait in your room." The woman looked at Bonneville and said, "Dr. Lyra Pervani." He nodded and said, "Olivier Bonneville." And no, her daemon was not with her. To Father Gerhardt he said, "What are you going to do? Find them both and deal with them, as you failed to do. Now get out." Bonneville knew, as he painfully climbed the staircase under the eyes of the smirking receptionist, that he should never have tackled Lyra on his own. When the girl had kicked him in the kidneys, it had taken all the strength out of him in one horrible moment. But that was nothing compared to the feeling of her hand wrenching his daemon's wing, as if she had reached inside his own chest and snapped a rib. That a girl should do this. And now that he should be humiliated beyond measure in front of a woman whom, 5 minutes before, he had never heard of. That would never happen again.